The cafeteria at Lincoln High buzzes with its usual lunchtime chaos. But Sage Mitchell stands perfectly still in the center of it all, her green eyes scanning the familiar social battlefield. Every table represents a different territory. Athletes dominating the center. Theater kids clustered by the windows. Honor students buried in textbooks near the vending machines. 3 weeks since her transfer, and she still hasn't found where she belongs. Her brown hair falls like a curtain around her face as she grips the orange plastic tray. The weight of a simple turkey sandwich and apple feeling heavier than it should, Sage takes a step forward, navigating through clusters of conversations and backpacks scattered across the floor. That's when she sees them. 3 figures emerge from the lunch line, like predators who've spotted vulnerable prey. Brock Sterling leads the pack, his Letterman jacket stretched tight across broad shoulders that have carried Lincoln High to 2 consecutive state championships. Behind him, Tanner Walsh and Kyle Brennan move with synchronized confidence of boys who've never questioned their place at the top of the food chain. Their eyes lock onto Sage with interest that makes her stomach tighten. The trio positions themselves directly in her path to the pizza counter. The casual way they spread out, Brock in the center, his friends flanking either side, transforms an ordinary lunch line into something deliberately territorial. Well, Brock's voice carries that particular tone reserved for moments when he knows he has an audience. Look who finally decided to join the peasants at the pizza counter. Sage keeps her gaze fixed ahead, but her peripheral vision catches every detail. Brock's stance screams dominance. Tanner bounces slightly on his toes, energy barely contained. Kyle's fingers drum against his thigh in a rhythm that suggests he's done this dance before. I'm sorry. Sage's voice emerges barely above a whisper. I just want to get some lunch. The word, sorry, seems to hit Brock like validation. His lips curl into a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Sorry? He takes a step closer. You should be sorry, walking around here like you own the place, thinking you can just fit in wherever you want. Maya Rodriguez watches from her table near the windows, her physics textbook forgotten. She's seen this pattern before. Brock and his crew selecting targets based on some invisible algorithm of perceived weakness. But Maya notices something others might miss. Despite Sage's hunched shoulders and nervous energy, her feet remain perfectly positioned. Weight distributed evenly, knees slightly bent. Look at me when I'm talking to you. Brock's voice takes on an edge that cuts through the cafeteria's ambient noise. Sage slowly lifts her head, and for a moment, her green eyes meet his directly. Whatever Brock expected to find there, fear, submission, isn't what greets him. Instead, he sees something that makes him pause, though he covers it with increased aggression. That's better. Now, here's how this works, new girl. The pizza counter has rules, unwritten rules. And one of those rules is that when you're new here, you wait your turn. At the back of the line. Tanner snickers. Yeah, maybe come back when the real students are done eating. The cafeteria has grown noticeably quieter. Conversations reduced to whispers as more students turn their attention to the confrontation. Some hold phones, fingers hovering over record buttons. Sage glances at the pizza counter where only 2 students remain ahead. The logic of Brock's demand makes no sense except as a pure power play. I've been waiting, she says quietly. But there's something in her tone, a careful control that suggests deeper currents beneath the surface. Just like everyone else. Kyle steps forward, his movement designed to close off any potential escape route. At 6 feet 2 inches, he towers over Sage's modest frame. Did you just talk back to him? I think the little mouse just squeaked. The nickname hits its target. Several nearby students laugh. Little mouse. Small, frightened, helpless, but appearances can be deceiving. Sage sets her tray down on a nearby empty table with movements so controlled they seem almost mechanical. I just want to eat my lunch, she repeats. But this time, the whisper carries differently. There's steel beneath the silk. Brock senses the shift, though he misinterprets its source. Smart choice. See, this is how we avoid problems. You learn the pecking order, accept your place, and everybody stays happy. Tanner moves to Sage's left side, positioning himself so she's caught between the two larger boys. Of course, there might be a small toll for the lesson. Consider it tuition for your education and how things work around here. He extends his hand toward her apple with casual entitlement. That's when Sage's carefully controlled facade begins to crack. Her left hand moves to intercept Tanner's reaching fingers, simply placing her palm against his wrist and applying the slightest pressure. The movement is so subtle most observers might miss it, but Tanner jerks his hand back as if he's touched something unexpectedly solid. Don't, Sage says, and for the first time, her voice carries above a whisper. The single word lands in this suddenly quiet space with unexpected weight. Not a plea, but a statement of fact. Brock's eyes narrow. Oh, now she's got an attitude, Kyle says, but there's less confidence in his voice than before. Maya's physics textbook slides forgotten to the floor as she watches. The new girl's body language has changed subtly but significantly. Her shoulders remain hunched, head still slightly lowered, but her feet have shifted into a stance that speaks to training. Brock feels the weight of all those eyes, the expectation that he'll maintain his position through decisive action. You know what your problem is? You think because you came from some fancy private school, you can walk in here and change how things work. But this isn't your old school, little mouse. This is the real world. His hand rises, index finger extended to jab towards Sage's shoulder. But Tanner, emboldened by Brock's aggression and eager to prove his loyalty, decides words aren't moving fast enough. While Brock gestures, Tanner's hands move to Sage's shoulders, intending to give her a firm shove. His palms make contact with her shoulders, and then everything changes. The movement happens so fast that most observers will later disagree about exactly what they saw. Sage's right fist connects with the exact center of Tanner's sternum, her body rotating through the punch with textbook form that speaks to years of training. The strike isn't wild or desperate. It's calculated, delivered with technical precision that maximizes impact while minimizing wasted motion. Tanner's feet leave the ground. He hangs suspended in the air, his expression cycling through confusion, surprise, and dawning realization. Then gravity reasserts itself and his body crashes backward into the pizza counter's display table. The collision creates a symphony of destruction. Metal serving trays clatter against tile. Plastic containers of toppings explode across the floor. The entire display table tilts sideways before collapsing with a sound like thunder. Cheese sauce creates abstract art across the wall. Pepperoni slices scatter like oversized confetti. A pyramid of paper plates transforms into a snowstorm of white circles. And in the center of it all, Tanner Walsh lies sprawled among the ruins, marinara sauce painting his Letterman jacket in abstract patterns that will never come out. The cafeteria falls into absolute silence. 500 students simultaneously hold their breath. The little mouse, the quiet new girl who whispered apologies and kept her head down, has just put one of Lincoln High's most feared bullies through a table with a single punch. Maya's hand covers her mouth, but her eyes shine with something dangerously close to admiration. Around the cafeteria, phones emerge from pockets, camera apps launching. Brock stares at his friend's crumpled form, his brain struggling to reconcile what he's seeing. Kyle takes an involuntary step backward, his earlier confidence evaporating. And Sage stands in the eye of the storm she's created, her right hand still raised in follow-through position. Her green eyes no longer hidden beneath downcast lashes, but blazing with something that transforms her entire face. I told you not to touch me, she says quietly. But in the absolute silence, Her words carry to every corner of the room. The cafeteria doors burst open with a bang. Principal Davidson strides into the scene of destruction, his eyes taking in the overturned table, the food-covered floor, and Tanner struggling to sit up among the wreckage. His gaze shifts to Sage, who still stands in fighting stance, then to Brock and Kyle, whose expressions cycle through shock and anger. "Nobody move!" Principal Davidson's voice cuts through the silence like a blade. "Nobody says a word until I figure out exactly what happened here." But as his eyes scan the destroyed pizza counter and settle on the small girl at the center of it all, Sage Mitchell allows herself the smallest smile. Because for the first time since arriving at Lincoln High, she's no longer invisible, and she's definitely no longer anyone's victim. The aftermath stretches like a held breath. Principal Davidson stands in the doorway, his weathered face taking in the scene with methodical assessment. Even his experienced eyes widen slightly at the scope of destruction. Marinara sauce drips from the wall in slow crimson rivulets. Scattered pepperoni creates a minefield across the tile. The overturned display table lies on its side, metal legs pointing accusingly toward the fluorescent lights. "Miss Chin." Principal Davidson's voice cuts through the silence as he spots Maya. "Please go to the main office and ask Mrs. Rodriguez to call the custodial staff." Maya nods quickly, but as she passes Sage, she pauses just long enough to whisper, "That was incredible," before disappearing through the doorway. Principal Davidson approaches with measured steps. "Mr. Sterling, please help Mr. Walsh to the nurse's office. Mr. Brennan, you'll escort them both." Brock's mouth opens as if to protest, but something in the principal's expression stops the words. Instead, he moves to help Tanner stand, both boys slipping slightly on the slick floor. "Miss Mitchell, you and I need to have a conversation." The cafeteria remains frozen. "The security office. We'll review the footage together." The walk to Principal Davidson's office feels like a parade through enemy territory. Students line the hallways, their whispered conversations creating a buzz of speculation. Principal Davidson's office reflects 2 decades of educational service, walls lined with graduation photos and achievement certificates. He gestures for Sage to take a seat while he pulls up the security system. "Lincoln High installed these cameras 3 years ago. Every public space, every angle, timestamp accuracy to the second." His fingers navigate the interface. "Let's see exactly what happened." The footage begins 15 minutes before the confrontation. Sage appears as a small figure navigating through clusters of students. The timestamp reads 12:23 p.m. when Brock, Tanner, and Kyle first emerge from the lunch line. "There," Sage points. "That's when they blocked my way." Principal Davidson adjusts his glasses, leaning closer as the scene unfolds. The audio pickup catches fragments of conversation. Brock's comment about peasants. Sage's quiet apology. The escalating verbal confrontation. "Mr. Sterling appears to be doing most of the talking," Principal Davidson observes, his tone carefully neutral. The critical moment approaches. Tanner's hands moving towards Sage's shoulders while she stands motionless. The camera captures everything in perfect detail. Then comes the lightning-fast response. "Remarkable," Principal Davidson murmurs, watching in slow motion. Her body rotates with textbook precision, right fist driving forward with focused power. The punch connects with Tanner's sternum at the exact moment his hands make contact with her shoulders. "Miss Mitchell, where exactly did you learn to punch like that?" Sage's green eyes meet his directly. "My father was a Marine drill instructor before he became a civilian contractor. He taught me self-defense starting when I was 8 years old." The principal nods slowly. "And the technique you used, that's not something you picked up from internet videos." 6 years of karate, 2 years of mixed martial arts training. Dad always said, the best fight is the one you never have to have. But if someone puts their hands on you first, You end it quickly and decisively. Principal Davidson rewinds the footage to watch again, paying attention to positioning and body language. What he sees confirms the initial viewing. Sage maintained defensive posture throughout, never initiating physical contact, never escalating beyond verbal responses until Tanner's hands made contact. Self-defense, he says finally, making a note. Clear and unambiguous. A knock interrupts their review. Mrs. Rodriguez pokes her head inside. 3 more students asking to give witness statements. And Channel 7 News called. Apparently someone posted video on social media. Principal Davidson sighs, rubbing his temples. Send them to Vice Principal Martinez and put together a statement about our zero-tolerance policy on bullying. As Mrs. Rodriguez disappears, he turns back to Sage. Miss Mitchell, you've created quite a situation here. While your actions appear to be legally justified self-defense, the consequences extend far beyond this office. By tomorrow morning, half the internet will have seen you put Mr. Walsh through that table. Sage considers this carefully. I didn't want any of this to happen, Mr. Davidson. I just wanted to eat lunch and be left alone. I believe you. But sometimes we don't get to choose our moments. Sometimes our moments choose us. The next hour brings a parade of witnesses. Maya Rodriguez provides the most detailed account, her natural observational skills allowing her to describe the subtle changes in body language that led up to the confrontation. Sage never did anything aggressive, Maya insists. She kept trying to de-escalate, kept her voice down, even apologized when she had nothing to apologize for. But they wouldn't leave her alone. Other students confirm similar observations. By the time witness statements are complete, the picture that emerges is one of systematic bullying met by reluctant but justified self-defense. The disciplinary meeting involves phone calls to parents, consultation with the district office, and careful review of policies. Mr. Sterling, Mr. Walsh, and Mr. Brennan will be suspended for 1 week, Principal Davidson announces during the formal hearing. The security footage clearly shows initiation of physical contact by Mr. Walsh, combined with coordinated intimidation tactics that violate our anti-bullying policies. Brock's father attempts to argue, but the video evidence proves impossible to dispute. Miss Mitchell, while your response was legally justified self-defense, the school district requires that we address the use of force on campus through appropriate channels. You'll attend 3 sessions with our conflict resolution counselor. It's a measured response that acknowledges both the justification for Sage's actions and the need to maintain school policies. Word of the suspension spreads like wildfire, carrying with it a fundamental shift in social dynamics. For the first time in years, consequences for bullying behavior outweighed social benefits. Elena Santos, a sophomore who'd been targeted by Brock's crew for weeks, finds courage to report previous incidents. I never thought anyone would believe me. They're popular athletes, and I'm just nobody special. But seeing what happened to Sage, seeing that someone could fight back and win, it made me realize I didn't have to accept it anymore. Elena's report opens floodgates sealed by fear and social pressure. Over the following days, more than a dozen students come forward with similar stories. The pattern that emerges paints a disturbing picture of widespread abuse enabled by social structures that prioritized athletic achievement over basic human decency. But Sage's dramatic demonstration that bullies could be confronted and defeated had shattered the psychological barriers that previously kept victims silent. Maya Rodriguez finds herself transformed from isolated observer to reluctant spokesperson for the emerging anti-bullying movement. What Sage did wasn't just self-defense, Maya explains to a group gathered in the library. It was a demonstration that we don't have to accept abuse as the price of attending this school. Marcus Thompson, a quiet junior, raises his hand tentatively. But what if we're not trained fighters like Sage? Not everyone can punch their way out of trouble. Maya's response reflects weeks of thinking. Physical self-defense was Sage's solution because she had those skills. But there are other ways to fight back. Documentation, witnesses, social media, involving adults who actually care about stopping abuse. The important thing is refusing to accept that we deserve to be victims. What began as a single incident has evolved into something larger, a movement that challenges the fundamental power structures governing teenage social interactions. 3 weeks after the pizza counter incident, Lincoln High feels different. Students walk the hallways with straighter backs. Lunch periods see more integration between social groups. Teachers report decreased disciplinary problems, but change rarely comes without resistance. Sage notices them first during her walk to the parking lot after martial arts practice. A group of older students she doesn't recognize, positioned near her car with casual confidence of people who own whatever space they occupy. The leader appears college-aged, his expensive clothing and carefully maintained appearance suggesting resources beyond teenage rebellion. Two companions flank him with military precision. "You must be the famous Sage Mitchell," the leader says as she comes within range. "I'm Derek Sterling, Brock's older brother." The family resemblance becomes obvious, the same strong jawline and athletic build, but refined by adult experience. Where Brock projected teenage arrogance, Derek radiates controlled menace. "You embarrassed my little brother pretty thoroughly," Derek continues conversationally. "Made him look weak in front of the whole school. That kind of thing tends to reflect poorly on the family name." Sage sets her gym bag down carefully, processing the situation. 3 adult men confronting a teenage girl in a high school parking lot after normal hours. "Your brother put his hands on me first," she responds quietly. "I was defending myself within my legal rights." Derek's smile doesn't reach his eyes. "Legal rights are interesting things, Sage. Very dependent on context, witnesses, evidence. Parking lots after dark can be such unpredictable places." His companions move to position themselves strategically, one behind Sage, the other blocking her path back toward the school building. The coordination speaks to planning and experience. But if they expected to find the same frightened girl who'd initially tried to avoid confrontation, they've miscalculated badly. "You know what I learned about bullies?" Sage's voice carries newfound confidence as she shifts her stance subtly. "They never travel alone because deep down they know they're not as strong as they pretend to be." Derek's expression hardens. "Tough talk for someone who's seriously outnumbered." "Outnumbered, maybe," Sage replies. And for the first time since Derek introduced himself, she smiles. "But not outmatched." The parking lot falls silent except for distant traffic and the whisper of wind through trees. Derek's patience begins to fray. "You think you're some kind of action movie hero? This isn't your high school cafeteria, little girl. Out here, there are no cameras, no witnesses, no principal coming to save you." "Funny thing about cameras," Sage responds without turning. "They're everywhere these days. School security extends to the parking lots. Traffic cameras cover the street approaches. And most importantly," she pauses, "my phone has been recording this entire conversation and automatically uploading to cloud storage." Derek's eyes narrow, his confidence wavering as he considers implications of documented evidence showing 3 adult men confronting a teenage girl. In the age of viral videos, such footage could destroy reputations and trigger legal consequences, but he's gone too far to back down now. "Cloud storage can be hacked. Files can be corrupted. Phones can be broken. Teenage girls can have terrible accidents in parking lots after dark." The threat hangs heavy in the evening air, transforming intimidation into something approaching genuine menace. Sage absorbs the escalation with calm focus. But something shifts in her posture. Her weight settles more completely. Her hands move to optimal positions. Her breathing deepens as her body prepares. You know what the real difference is between you and your brother? Brock was just a high school bully who got carried away. But you're actually dangerous. Derek preens at what he interprets as recognition of his superior threat level, missing that Sage isn't expressing fear. She's categorizing the threat and adjusting her response accordingly. Smart girl. Maybe this doesn't have to end badly. You issue a public apology to my brother, transfer to a different school, and we forget this whole unfortunate incident. The offer contains just enough reasonableness to provide plausible deniability while making the underlying threat perfectly clear. Submit completely, abandon everything she's built, and accept exile. Sage considers the proposal for exactly 3 seconds before shaking her head. I don't think so. Wrong answer. Derek signals his companions with a subtle gesture, and suddenly the parking lot becomes much more dangerous. But as the 3 men begin to close their circle, something unexpected happens. Car doors slam in the distance. Footsteps echo across asphalt and voices carry through the evening air as a group of students emerges from the school building. Maya Rodriguez leads the small procession, followed by Elena Santos, Marcus Thompson, and half a dozen others who found their courage in the weeks since the cafeteria incident. They're not physically impressive, mostly underclassmen and academic types, but their presence transforms the dynamics completely. Sage, Maya calls out clearly. Is everything okay over there? Derek's carefully orchestrated scenario suddenly includes witnesses, documentation, and complications he hadn't anticipated. The presence of other students creates legal and social risks that extend far beyond simple assault charges. Actually, Sage says, loud enough for the approaching students to hear. These gentlemen were just leaving, weren't you, Derek? The challenge in her tone makes it clear she's no longer the isolated new girl who could be bullied into submission. She's become something different, a focal point for resistance, a symbol of what becomes possible when people refuse to accept abuse as inevitable. Derek stares at her for a long moment, his mind racing through calculations of risk versus reward. Around them, the parking lot has become a stage where multiple narratives converge. Family honor, student resistance, adult privilege, and teenage determination. Derek's jaw tightens as he weighs his options, the arrival of witnesses having complicated what should have been simple. This isn't over, Derek finally says, his voice carrying the promise of future confrontations. The Sterling family doesn't forget, and we don't forgive. He steps back slowly, movements controlled despite obvious frustration. Come on, he tells his companions, who seem relieved to abandon their positions. As the 3 men walk toward their expensive car, Derek pauses one final time. Enjoy your little victory, Sage Mitchell. But remember, graduation comes for everyone eventually, and the real world doesn't have hall monitors. The threat lingers even after their car disappears into traffic, leaving Sage surrounded by her unlikely alliance of academic outcasts and former victims who found strength in numbers and shared purpose.